bars in a rave. Man, I go hard like Santan.
Hello. Welcome to Chessy Hour. My name is Meeds, and I'll be your host for this one. Today I'm joined by my good brother, Jay. How you doing, bro?
Yeah, all good, man. All good. Weather's good. You get me? Nice day in London today, so
The sun's shining. I just came off Kilburn, bro. I just came off Kilburn, and I was like, yo, this heat is crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I've been unwell, so sorry to listeners. I want to say I've been unwell for a while. Still kind of on the mend, but I couldn't leave you guys 2 weeks without. We have to do it. We have to push through. We have to push through. But
For sure.
a lot has happened since then. A lot has happened since the last pod, Jay. We are now world finalists. FIFA Club World Cup. We're in the final against Paris Saint-Germain, and we got there in quite emphatic style. I think probably the best place to start is the Fluminense performance. 2-0 domination. I felt from start to finish. I think everybody played their part. Everybody was really, really good. I mean, obviously, Robert Sanchez had a moment, typically, but aside from that, I think we looked really, really good. But when you saw Joao Pedro start, were you a bit surprised? I was kind of surprised. I'm not gonna lie, because as great as his cameo was against, but he was incredible. And in fact, his cameo against Palmeiras, I think, was the reason why we won the game.
Yeah.
I think he kind of took the game away from them because he was just high quality, high intensity. But yeah, tell what you thought when you saw the start from Joao Pedro.
Yeah. It's funny because obviously I joked about it with Dan in the chat, and then obviously you saw it later on. But when Maresca made those comments about Joao Pedro and the options he had, it was just mad how he was so quick to mention Pedro, like Joao Pedro's name. And I feel like, you know, the power of a first impression generally in life, innit? Do you know what I mean? It's like there's that power of the first impression is powerful, innit? And I feel like Joao Pedro, he's probably coming to this whole, you know, situation where I'm not sure how long he knew Chelsea were interested in him for, but he's kind of come into this like team knowing that it's a massive opportunity. He's come probably into the training session and probably just, well, not even probably, we saw a clip of him absolutely body, I think, who was it that he bodied somebody, like just threw them to the floor kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it was Noni. I think
it was someone like that. Yeah, it's like he took the ball off Noni and then he barred someone else, and it was like you could almost see that he was so hungry to show everybody what he was here for. And then I think that stuck with Maresca, and then Maresca said, you know what? Cool, give you 20 minutes against Palmeiras, and then I think from there onwards he's just.
You know what, Jay? You sent in a clip. You sent in that training clip, and you said he looks ready. You know, you said it when you know, because Jay, you're a passion merchant.
Yeah, for sure.
So
you know already.
When you saw, I saw already. When I saw that, and when you said that evoked something in my spirit. I thought, yeah, this kid, he looks like he's on it. And I think at the time of the signing, I was saying that I'm not a big fan, not really wanting any parts, but at the very same time, I always left a space for, but I'm open to have my mind changed. And I think that's very important when it comes to signings.
Yeah.
Hold your own ideas and your own ideals of players coming in. I might want X player, Y player, but you have to allow for a space for that player to prove you wrong. And I think I said at the time as well, we got Gittins, very happy because that's the guy that I wanted. Got the lap, again, very happy guy I wanted. So I'm not going to complain if we get someone that isn't really of the fit that I want, because, again, I'm open to be proven wrong. And ultimately, when I saw that first training video, I said, yeah, there's something about this guy that looks hungry and determined to really show he's about.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's kind of like why I wasn't surprised he got picked. Because like at the top of the pod, the question is, were you surprised that he was in that lineup? And I think for me, I wasn't surprised, because I just think from what I've heard from him so far, I'd assume that he's shown that to Maresca. And then Maresca, I'm getting first half of the season Maresca in this tournament now. I'm not afraid to change things. I'm not afraid to try things. I'm not afraid to reintroduce players. If you play bad, cool, I'll bring in somebody else. Like, he switched it up on me.
He's making me sick, bro.
It was so nasty what he did. Yeah, like, hey, listen, I took it so personally. Like, people will see me and think, oh, it's because of Poch and all of this, why you're getting onto Maresca. No, I was full of praise for Maresca in the first half of the season. What he did between December and April, where he was, I don't know what happened, but it was completely opposite to what he introduced me to in the first half of the season. The quick changes, not being afraid to change things in the first half, or after the first half, like sticking by players even when they're having these patches and believing that they're going to play well, but then also acknowledging that, all right, you know what, it's not working. Let's try something different. Like, he's done that in this whole tournament, and it's worked.
It's been very annoying. It's been very annoying.
And it's worked for him, bro.
And it makes you wonder what could have been if he maintained the same energy. And I always get very frustrated when people and things, they show you a certain thing, then they kind of snatch it away from you.
Yeah.
And I think Maresca, this tournament, he's come back full circle. And I'm just like, well, where did this go? You didn't need to do this in the first instance. Like, why?
Yeah.
You know
but saying? Is it inexperience? That's the only thing. That's the only thing I say. Like, have I been harsh to the point where I've completely ignored, or not completely ignored, but maybe ignored too many parts of the development of Maresca himself? Whereas somebody like Poch doesn't have, he didn't need that development. So when he's making mistakes, it's fair enough to say, Gaffer, you shouldn't really be making these mistakes because you've been through this before. Whereas, like, with Maresca, I think the mistakes that he's making, maybe he's not changing them quick enough, or maybe he's trying to go a different way because he's never kind of been in this situation before at this level. I don't know what it is. I can't really put my finger on it. If I'm being honest, I still think a lot of it did make me a bit sick, like the way it was in that second half of the season. But and the thing is, you know me, I'll criticize when I need to criticize, but I'll also praise when I think it's due. Do you know what I mean? And I've been the first one to say that in this Club World Cup, Maresca's actually shown a different, that different side to him again, where he's changing things. He's not so rigid. He's still sticking with a couple of things that he really wants to work, and that's absolutely fine because every manager has a couple of things that they don't really like to change. And his thing is kind of like that inverted fullback thing. He really likes it. So, and I get it. He's going to try it. And the Palmer stuff as well. We'll talk about that later. But again, the team is winning. And at the end of the day, we're in a final. Things like bringing in Joao Pedro so quickly into the team are benefiting the team, and they're helping Maresca as well. Do you know what I mean? Kind of shuffle things around, and he's even got Nkunku in the team and stuff like that. So I think, like, he's making bold choices. I think Joao Pedro trusting him from the start. Yeah, not surprised, and very pleased that he was open to it.
Yeah, I think like you said, I think he's still a very, very young coach. He's just 45, and he's only really, again, that was his second full season in management. So there's lots of things that he's still figuring out as himself, as a manager, let alone in terms of imparting his ideas onto a group of players. But I think, like you said, this tournament, he's really reverted back to what we saw in the first part of the season last season, the first part of the season, basically, because it's all the same season. But he's definitely shown adaptability. If we've had injuries, he's adjusted. He's not been super rigid in his approach. Players have played in multiple different areas, and Nkunku's played on the right, and Nkunku's played on the left. Cole's played on the right, Cole's played in central, Cole's played on the left. So there's been a lot of changes, a lot of tweaks, and yeah, I'm very, very impressed with how we've navigated this tournament. I think the one disappointment was obviously the Flamengo game, which ultimately ended up being a blessing in disguise. But the Flamengo game was a disappointment tactically. And obviously we had the disappointment of Nicolas Jackson getting sent off. But I think, what we've seen is that he's shown a lot of bravery. That's the one thing that I've noticed this tournament. There's been a lot of bravery, a lot of brave and hard decisions that he's been sticking by and making.
Yeah.
And he's sticking to his guns, man. So it's very, very impressive to see what he's done and how we've navigated things. But I mean, we can't not talk about the game, but so much of the game was really, really good. But I want to focus on Joao Pedro for a minute because,
Of course, yeah.
Jay, we need to talk about these finishing because for the best part of 2 years, 2 good blood clot years, what have we been screwing for? What's the one thing we've been like making dua for, bro? The one thing.
Just somebody that can strike the ball, bro. Strike the ball decent. You don't even have to be a Harry Kane, but
Brother.
just strike it with a little bit of venom, please. Because yeah, man, that was I think both finishes were perfect to kind of see as well in that game, because it's like one of them we speak about a lot, where it's like if you're not gonna lace it like a Harry Kane does or whatever, at least kind of master that finesse shot. Do you know what I mean? Like that little finesse, wrap it into the corner. Like if you can get that finish in on, like if you got that in your locker, then you're always going to be able to score goals. Do you know what I mean? But then he shows you the second one, and you're like, well, boy.
All right, let's talk about the goals individually, yeah? Because the first one was peak. It was good play from Neto. In fact, it was a good combination between Pedro and both Pedros, basically. A little flip around the corner. Hold on, I just...
Neto's at a tournament.
Bro, like, forget Neto for a second. It's just the fact that Joao Pedro is a baller.
Yeah.
It's not even...
And that's what you said at the beginning. That's what you said at the beginning. To be clear, like when you were saying that you weren't too sure about if we should go for him or not. It was nothing to do with his ability, because I don't think you'd ever criticize his ability.
From a footballing perspective,
you were very focused on goals at the time. At that point in time when we were talking about it, I think just generally in the group we're talking about who can we get to be the shooter, because we need somebody else to come in, and we weren't sure if somebody else is going to come in after Pedro. So if he's going to be the last one that comes in that position, you're not sure. Yeah, exactly.
So what the thing is with Joao Pedro, as a footballer, you can see he's got it. Like he's got good vision. He likes to knit play. Technically, very, very solid. Technically, just even like when we saw against Palmeiras, just when he came on, the touches were just instant, getting pumped into him, and he's like, touch brings it down. Pew! It's like the first touch, instant.
Yeah, man.
Okay, you know, from a technical standpoint, he's good. You know, from a physical standpoint, he's going to stand up to the battle. Like, he's not shying away from duels. He's physically strong. So I'm just like, okay, so that bit, I know what I'm getting. Like, I know I can get jinky me jinky. I know I can get touch and touch. You touch, I touch. I know you can get hold up and link up. I know I've got all that down pat. And he's not rapid, but he can get away from people, right? Yeah. So the first goal, good little bit of a little flick on the outside of the foot to release Pedro Neto. And then it's like, okay, clean. Neto gets away, fires across into the box. Thiago Silva clears it, drops to Pedro, to Joao Pedro. And it was one touch to set. One motion.
Yeah, didn't even think about it.
Didn't even think. No hesitation. He just clarted it. And it was so perfect. He didn't even get so much curl on it. He got just enough to just get into that far corner. That was aimed and arrowed into the top corner perfectly.
Yeah.
Perfectly. That was an absolute mad finish. You know what that finish reminded me of? When all Willian and Costa both were Wolves away.
Yeah, yeah.
Did those same same finishes in the corner.
That time around the season. Yeah. And
I was like, yo, we've not had a man clap it like that for ages.
Yeah. Willian used to love those finishes. Willian used to love those kind of finishes. I think it was clever from him as well. Like he could have like followed it all the way into the box, And I wouldn't have been mad if he did that, because obviously he was trying to get goals. But at the same time, I think he's got that kind of, you know, that cleverness to sometimes not just follow everybody, maybe just wait outside, wait for something to drop, and then
Find the
make the most
space.
of it. Yeah, like so.
See where I can hurt you, basically.
Yeah, and I yeah, that finish was. I was watching it live while I was at work actually, because I managed to catch the first half when I was on break, and then and it happened, and everybody in work was just like sitting there, weren't interested, and I just jumped up and I was like, yo, I was like, that finish was mad. I was like, is this what Pedro's on? Nobody knew what I was talking about, but I was just like, yeah, this is crazy.
I couldn't believe it because I saw it and I almost like couldn't believe what I just saw, because I've watched a lot of Joao Pedro. Obviously, been looking at the vids, looking at the tapes. I looked at his Watford tapes as well. I was like, clapping it from distance was not really something I saw from him. I see that he could shoot, but not necessarily hit it with real conviction. So when I saw that, I was like, what?
Yeah.
So right into the far corner, I'm like, all right, cool. That set us on our way. We were super dominant before then. We were really cutting them open. A couple of missed opportunities here and there, but we were just in complete control. And I think that's allowed us to kind of, not necessarily break on them at will, but it just allowed us to play our own game and play it at our own pace. And because it was so hot, I think the whole memo was, listen, we can pick them off. We're going to have to make them work, to make them run. And that's what happened in the second half. They came out a bit more, but they just didn't really have anything for us.
We adapted as well. We've adapted to the climate as well. I think we've done very well. I think that big part of the Flamengo loss was partly due to that. I think we kind of underestimated like how long it would take to maybe, you know, acclimatize to the whole thing, and we got pammed for it. Do you know what I mean?
Bro, do you know what's so peak about the Flamengo one? Yeah, the difference in intensity between us and them, like they were able to rise it at any occasion, bro. It was peak. Like we looked out on our feet. I'm seeing Jorginho was like sprinting around, jogging around. There was a moment in the game where we got a bit more control, and that's where Jorginho kind of disappeared from the game. Then he reappeared, and that was it. Control. They're just pamming us, making us run. And yeah, man, they really fisted us up. They fisted us up. It was comprehensive, man.
It's one thing being tired in a game generally in football. It's another thing being tired and then having to go again in that kind of climate. Like it's hot. Your shirt might be heavier than usual because you're sweating. Like it's not great. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not a nice kind of climate to be playing in. So I think, like you said, we controlled it a lot better against Fluminense, and we just did what we should be doing as a team that does have more quality, which is picking those moments very carefully and making sure that we have quality on the end of it. Because if we're being honest, even in the Premier League, we've had so many of those moments. 100%. So many of those moments. Like 100%. There's so many of those moments. The stats don't even show. Like the amount of times that we've been in those kind of positions, and that's what got me really excited about the Joao Pedro finishes, because I've seen Jackson in a lot. Like I give Jackson his credit; he's done a lot of his own work to get into those positions before. Dribbled past 2-3 guys, spun a guy, dribbled past one. Now all of a sudden he's in that same position. But what's lacking is exactly what Joao Pedro just showed, and we've said this. We've said it for 18 months. We've said this.
Yeah,
give Jackson that kind of finishing, and he's one of the best players in the Premier League. Like it's not even like it's honestly 100%. Like he gets himself into positions just by himself like that. But
100%.
But I think when you look at those finishes, I think there's just every right for Chelsea fans to be super excited, because they just know how many situations we've had like that in the past. Even in the games we lost like by fine margins, we're 1-0 up. A player that's finishing like that, we're going 2-3-0 up.
2-3-0, and the game you take the game away from. This is the thing, yeah. In the Prem, you can't afford to not take a game away from a team, because all it takes is a moment.
Yeah.
Everything got caught. All it takes is a moment, and I think that happened to Chelsea so many times, even under Poch.
Yeah.
Under Poch, under Maresca, we've been in a situation where we're in the ascendancy, but we kind of like Just don't take our chances, then we just get absolutely blammed by one moment of quality and then we crumble. So obviously he scores the first goal, and we're all just like thinking, what the fuck have we just signed? Like, what the fuck is that? Because I had like in all the scouting videos, I had never seen him clap it like that. So I'm like, what the fuck is this? Who's this new PT out in Rio? What the fuck? Who the fuck is this? Because I'd never seen him clap it like that before. I'm like, okay, cool. Let me relax. It might have been a one-off. Let me not get too gassed.
Yeah.
So we're popping. We're still playing well, dominating the ball, not giving them any chances. I don't think they had I think they had 1 or 2 shots on target the entire first half, and they were all shots from distance. There was a moment that shot off the line that Cucurella saved with Sanchez.
It's a mistake from the keeper.
Mistake from Sanchez.
Meant to come out.
Cucurella, amazing. Aside from that, they didn't really have any real moments. And then again, second half now, more domination. Again, playing within ourselves, but Fluminense, they come out a little bit more, trying to really press onto us in us heat. We nick the ball. Good play from Cole Palmer again, but he gets kind of challenged and like stumbling, but he still kind of back heels it, whether that's inadvertently or on purpose, I don't know, but back heels it. Edson Fernandez receives the ball outside of the foot into the path of JP. Now, we say that JP is not fast, but in that instance, obviously the two defenders are quite old, so let me not talk about him getting away from them.
Yeah.
And Thiago Silva was quite deep anyway. So he looks in full control of that situation, bro. And when he gets into the box and steps onto that ball, it explodes off his foot. Onto the bar, into the net. That finish, like I love the first one, and I think from a technical standpoint, the first one I think is probably better.
Yeah, but for sure.
Just the devastation in that finish, bro. I don't think he's ever hit a ball that hard before. I've ever seen him. I don't think I've ever seen him hit a ball that hard before. That was mad. That shot was like, I've arrived. That shot was like, I have arrived. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, this is the guy that you need. I'm the guy that you need. And throughout his whole interviews, his whole, like, when he signed the first interview with the Chelsea football account, he was so composed, relaxed, but so sure of himself. Like he said, I'm here to win. I'm here to show my skills, show my level. Bro, wow. Jay, talk to me.
It's interesting because, like, when you hear him talk, he definitely does sound like so sure of himself. And I think he even finds it a little bit insulting that people don't think he can finish. Like, that's the way he speaks. It's like, I'm not saying he's insulted by it, but like when they're asking him, he's almost like, all right, no problem, man. Like, you lot will see exactly what it is I can do. Because they mentioned it when he moved from Watford to Brighton, and he's like, they said I would struggle. Like, you know, they asked me the same questions, and I went straight into the Europa League and I bagged goals. I was like one of the top scorers. He was like, it's not even a bragging thing. It's just facts. Like, I was there bagging goals in a comp that I'd never played in before. Like, basically telling them, don't worry about me scoring goals. I can do that. But I think
he's like, I'm calm. Don't worry about me. I'm calm.
Yeah, and
I know what I'm on.
Exactly. And I think it's just a thing of, we have this perception as fans sometimes, especially these days, because we've seen so many of them. These players that can do a lot, like a little bit of everything, you're a bit worried about what it is they're actually elite at, especially like as a striker, when they're kind of like that Firmino kind of type player where they've got the link up and they've got the work rate and they've got this and they've got that. But I need you to put the ball in the back of the net. And then everybody kind of gets kind of like cold feet with those players because they're afraid that because they're so good at everything else, they're not actually going to be really good at the finishing part. But funnily enough, Joao Pedro might be different. He might be different. He might be different, and he might be one of those. He might be one of those special ones. I've mentioned to you already that he kind of reminds me of Cunha, which he also kind of falls into that kind of category of that player that can do a little bit of everything. He can be the creator. He can be the guy that carries you up the pitch. He can hold up the ball. But when it comes to the time to put the ball in the back of the net, he can also do that as well. And Joao Pedro is showing me that. But I think Joao Pedro might have a little bit more of a ruthlessness to him. That's the only thing I say. He might have a little bit more of a ruthlessness to him, because I've seen a few clips from even his time at Fluminense when he was in the academy. He's in the box scoring strikers' goals.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Whereas like Cunha, I don't think Cunha actually thrives from being in the box. I think he likes to kind of do a lot of the work outside of it. I think Joao Pedro can, but I think he's got more of a ruthlessness, and I think he doesn't mind being that kind of fox in the box as well. We haven't seen that for Chelsea yet, but I've seen it a few times for Brighton, where that ball's been clipped into the box and he's there with like a scrappy header, or he's there with like a little tap in. Like he's done all that before. So the fact that the first finishes that he's shown us are these ones, it's exciting, because I think, he might be a player that can just do it all, man.
He is, and the way that Maresca speaks about him is that he feels like he can play in a multitude of positions. And I think we spoke about this at the time when we were linked with him, linked with Ekatike, and Maresca's incessant talking about a player. He wants a player that can play in multiple areas, cover across the attacking line. And Pedro seems to be just that perfect fit. He described himself as a number 9, which I love. That's what, like, when people say, no, maybe he's like Gabriel Jesus, I'm like, nah, because Gabriel Jesus doesn't see himself as that. You know what I'm saying? Whereas Joao Pedro sees himself as a shooter. And he says in his first interview, I know I need to get my numbers up. I know I need to get my numbers up. That's the thought of a 9.
Yeah.
That's the thought of a 9. And the way he operates, again, he's in and around the box, but he's also out. And I remember Dan Soff, shout out to Dan, saying that it's very difficult to find a player that can do the outside stuff, but also be devastated inside the box.
Yeah.
And maybe, like you said, Joao Pedro is that, because I remember when we first signed Jackson and he was doing all of the stuff outside the box, you're thinking, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
And then he scored in pre-season, he notched 2. You're like, yo, these finishes are good. And obviously he couldn't sustain it. We saw what he was ultimately. So it's just like, maybe we can kind of let's slow down. But the level, the competition, because it's not pre-season, this is a serious competition, and the moments, both moments where they're not half chances.
No,
half chances, bro. That's what I'm trying. You know what I'm trying to say? The Jackson,
they're not clear-cut chances.
Yeah. So the
they're
half
chances. Yeah, exactly.
They were like half chances, clear-cut chances. You're like, all right, you know what? You can kind of get thrown off by how clinical a player is, but this ain't really about clinical. This ain't really about half chances. This is just devastation off of what your own work is. And that's just brilliance. Do you get it? Those finishes were just pure brilliance. So,
and we've seen him at Brighton already as well.
Exactly.
I think that's the difference with Jackson. Like with Jackson, we saw him in pre-season, we saw what he did, but we'd only really seen a few of those goals at Villarreal. But even all those goals at Villarreal, none of them were of the ilk of those finishes that we've just seen from Pedro. And I think that's where the difference is. And like you said, that first one technically is in a league of its own. So it's like, like that's not fluke. Like if you're not good technically, you're not really scoring them kind of goals.
No chance.
Do you get what I mean?
No chance.
You're not.
I'm being real. I'm gonna be real. Love Jackson, but Jackson's not scoring that goal ever.
He's tried that many times, and
He's tried it many times.
He's tried it many times. It's gone over.
And do you know what it is? Do you know what's funny, Jay? We've talked about this on the pod so many times. Like good effort, because it's always like good effort. You know?
Yeah. Always.
It's never going top bins. It's going over, and you're like, oh, decent effort, decent idea, because it's a good idea. And I don't have a problem with a player trying things, but the execution level is just different.
It will catch up with you,
and it will catch up with you
as a striker.
And Joao Pedro, the 2 finishes have shown us that this guy could potentially be what we've been looking for. At the very bare minimum, we know that he's got the ball striking capacity that we've been after. At the very least, do you feel me?
Yeah.
But speaking of Jackson, obviously Joao Pedro, the lap's come in and he's done decent as well. So the Joao Pedro thing is crazy because I don't know entirely if Maresca saw him as being the 9. He saw him as being a 9 option, but the 9, not necessarily. So this kind of may have changed the landscape as to what we're going to potentially do, because the idea wasn't to let Jackson potentially go at this point. If there were suitors and people that were interested, it could have potentially been a situation where we sell him. But now I think it kind of changed the landscape a bit. What does this kind of mean for Jackson now? Given Joao Pedro's excellence over against Fluminense, it doesn't look good for Jackson, especially after his cameo when he came on. Joao Pedro came off after 60 minutes because the job was done. Game 1. And again, Maresca took man off after 60 minutes. Bro, what's going on? Like, Maresca, what are you doing, bro? You changed again. You switched up on us again, bro. I can't believe what I'm seeing. But, yeah, Jackson came on for half hour. I think that was his first game since the red card.
Suspension,
yeah, so talk to me, bro. What is this for Jackson?
I think it's going to be tough for him. I think, like, if I'm looking at it from an objective point of view, like, I've said it myself already, he's had 2 seasons of regular football. He's had more chances than a long list of strikers at Chelsea. A long list of strikers. I'm talking about in the Roman era, you know, boy, for the longest time, I can't remember when a striker's got 2 seasons uninterrupted, regular starts, and the leeway. Well, the leeway and the in terms of the pressure, there's always pressure at Chelsea to be a 9, but Jackson hasn't had that type of pressure where we're expected to win the title, expected to finish top 2, like, which has been a lot of the time when Chelsea, you know, under Roman especially, we're looked at as a top 3 side, no arguments, no debate.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. And so where we've had this thing of, yeah, Chelsea might finish 6th, Chelsea might finish 5th. There's pressure, but there's not that much pressure in regards to the past. So I think I see it as he's had enough chances. Maresca will still give him a few chances when he can, here and there, because he still believes he's a good player. However, I think he's also acknowledged that what he needs from Jackson is still not there. After seeing him long enough. And so, you know, you've seen the lap. He knows a lot about the lap. He will know that the lap can deliver. I think Maresca will feel that about him. And then I feel like with Pedro, even though he doesn't, maybe, I don't know how much he knew about Pedro before, but he's seen Pedro come in and deliver as well. Do you know what I mean? So I think for the sake of the team, and maybe, you know, to give the team maybe a better option elsewhere, it might suit Chelsea to get rid of Jackson, because that next option that comes in, the name Ekitike is still floating about. Mm-hmm. You've still got, you know, the potential of another winger coming in. Like, obviously Kudus has gone to Spurs now, but, you know, there's loads of players out there that still give you that kind of versatility. You might even get somebody maybe closer to Palmer's kind of profile. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe a passer. You might get another passer in there. Because as creative as Joao Pedro is, I don't think he's a passer like how Cole Palmer is. So you might even look at getting somebody like that in the team. You just don't know what they're going to do. But I don't see the benefit of keeping Jackson at this point in time when you've got 2 strikers like Delap and Joao Pedro.
Yeah.
And that's not me saying, like, giving up on him and saying that he can never become that good player. I'm just saying, for our situation, we've played our part. And I always say this, I say, I am happy for players to go when they've been given the opportunity. When they've been given the opportunity, I'm absolutely fine with it. It even counts for, like, somebody like Esteban, for example. Everybody always asks me, like, Jay, why are you so quick to, like, want to see what they can do? Because I want to make sure you give them the opportunity. Whatever you do after that, that's fine.
Yeah.
But make sure you give them the opportunity. And we've done that with Jackson. We've done it with Jackson. We've done it with Noni to a degree. Do you get what I'm saying? Neto's had decent playing time this season, and the next season, you know, he's probably going to get a lot of opportunity. And so when the club move on from these players, I'm fine with it, because I don't feel like they've been treated unfairly.
True.
you
They've
understand?
been given a platform. Yeah, they've been given a platform. Like
Yeah.
someone like Noni, someone like Jackson, that man, they've had platforms, so you can't even begrudge the club saying, "All right, cool, it's time to move on from you." You know what I'm saying? And I feel like we've said about it many a times on this pod. Like platform is everything, so I don't think anyone should really be complaining about the possibility of Jackson moving on, if that makes any sense. Because really and truthfully, is it right for us to look to replace him after, like you said, Jay? No striker in probably our history has had this much of a free run. Like none,
I can't think
like,
of many that have had
none.
this kind of
Like
run.
especially in the Roman era, but even pre-Roman, like not like, bro, no, not a single striker that we've had has had a free run where there's no competition, no real competition, where you start rain, hail, sleet, or snow. It's on you. Like there's been no point. So he can't ever feel like he's been hard done by.
You
It's
look at
impossible,
strikers like Batshuayi, yeah,
bro.
who in terms of his finishing, just in isolation, is probably better than Jackson's. Yeah,
Yeah,
he done bits before he come to Chelsea. He comes to Chelsea and he hardly got a sniff. And the strikers in front of him weren't even always elite like that. I think at one point it was Costa, but after Costa left, there weren't really many doing anything after that. And
exactly.
he still didn't get opportunity. You look at somebody like Giroud, who come in and he done his part so many times, hardly seen as a regular at Chelsea.
Yeah,
Do you see what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
and
But
like I mentioned these guys because these are the more recent ones.
yeah,
So, so then Jackson now looking at his situation, that's night and day compared to those other two that I just mentioned.
bro. If, I think if we were to sell him tomorrow, I don't think even the most staunchest Jackson fan can really complain.
Yeah,
I'm a big Jackson fan. I wouldn't be able to complain given what's happened, given the red cards, the letting the team down multiple times, given the fact that he's had a free run. And not to say he's regressed, but we know what we get from Jackson in terms of goal scoring output.
yeah,
I feel it's more than fair for a club like Chelsea, especially a club like Chelsea, to be looking at upgrading or looking at improving their options. Now, if you want to stay as number 3 or number 2 and be like, all right, cool, I'll fight for my place, I'll try and continue to improve, try and push Pedro or whoever as hard as possible to kind of reclaim my spot, say less. I love that. I love that. You stay. But that don't seem like Jackson's kind of character. And I think even from the moment where we were being linked with strikers, like in January this season, he went off the ball because he seemed quite emotional, got a bit emotional, and yeah, it was just anyway. It just for me, it weren't really reading too good in terms of body language and behavior. So I'm just like, all right, maybe it's best for him and us to move on. And I
yeah,
think
yeah.
if a team came in for him, I don't think Chelsea would say absolutely not for sale. If I'm honest.
No, I think for the money that we paid for him, I think we got what we needed from him in regards to his contribution as in terms of as much as he can do as well. And then I think as well, like he needs to play. The next part of his development is like this is a stepping stone as well. Like it sounds mad, but at the time that he's come to Chelsea, this is a bit of a stepping stone for his career. He's come to a team that needed him to kind of try and perform to like the highest level possible. When it comes to playing for a big team, he's tried his best. He's kind of left with a tally of his best tally is 14 goals. If he does leave, he'll be leaving with a tally of 14 goals in the Premier League. I don't think that's anything to kind of,
Non-pen as well, non-penalty goals.
that's what I'm saying. I don't think that's anything to kind of look down on and look back on and think, oh, I didn't really leave my mark there. You absolutely did, and I think a lot of people kind of warm to you in regards to your all-round play. But the reality is, fans are always going to get to a point where they have to be honest about what we need from a striker. Any fan base will get to that point. You've seen it with Nunez, you've seen it with Firmino, you've seen it with now Jackson. There's Gabriel Jesus. It's not just Jackson. There's so many players. So I think, like, moving on from him, like we said, moving on from him is not. It's not. I don't think it's a negative on him necessarily.
No,
Because just because of how young he is and he needs to develop, he needs to play more games.
100%.
And yeah, I just think if he does leave, wish all the best for him. But if he
Of
stays,
course.
then I just kind of question the decision because I just don't
Yeah,
understand where that takes him.
yeah. What does that mean for him as a player? You know what I'm saying, and his
his camp
development
should
and
be
growth.
looking at moving him on. If I'm being
Agreed.
honest,
Agreed.
that's just me though.
Agreed. Because at the same time, like you said, Jay, there's always murmurs of him being replaced anyway. Do you get it? Like you said, Ekatike being linked still. And obviously, we've got Pedro, got Delap. So probably for his own sake, you know, he probably needs to go to a place maybe like an Aston Villa. Obviously, you know, Watkins is looking at moving at a point in time. He's getting on a little bit. And obviously being reunited with Unai Emery might actually be a good option for him. Obviously, I don't know what their PSR situation is. They've recently just sold their women's team to themselves, like us, but so they've probably got a little bit more leeway than they had previously. But I think maybe somewhere like Unai, you know, where he's got such a great relationship with him, might be a good move for him to stay in the Premier League and obviously prove us not necessarily wrong, but prove to us that with a better platform or a better environment that he can improve. And generally, with his age as well, he should improve over time anyway and more experience anyway. But yeah, I just feel like it's for a club of our size and our aspirations. I don't think it'd be wrong for us to look to move on from Nicolas Jackson, to be perfectly honest.
Agreed.
Yeah, what he's been shelling out for the last couple of months, especially, it's just really been rubbing me up the wrong way, performance-wise. But yeah, man, it's an interesting one. We're going to be watching it closely. Going to be keeping our ears to the streets because yeah, these Ekatike rumors aren't going away, and I'm here for it, bro. I'm not gonna lie, I'm in for it. Because those three striking options, and not even just striking, forward options, because Ekatike can play out wide. Joao Pedro could play wide or 10. The lap could play is a 9. He's also played wide in his day. So it's just like I can see what they're trying to do. I see what they're trying to build. And I feel like Joao Pedro can be a two-man step. Do you get it? It could be Joao Pedro and a Delap. It could be Joao Pedro and Ekatike. So that could be a two-man step. So I said this before. I said this earlier in the summer. I said this is what I think Maresca is going for. Maresca seems to be hungry for almost like a 9, and he did it with Joao Felix and Kunku. You know, he feels like he wants that, but they have to be the right fit. They have to be the right profile.
Yeah.
And to me, it looks like potentially Joao Pedro is the man. You know, and also Joao Pedro got that co-sign from the Zerbi as well. So I already know it's peak for whoever that wants to be playing regularly on that kind of area. It's peak for them because that's the Zerbi's boy. Now it's Maresca's boy because the Zerbi and Maresca are like that. So, JP's already got a head start. You know what I'm saying? On quite a few players. Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting. Jackson, you know, it ain't looking too good.
Not looking good, yeah.
You know what I mean? I know another player ain't looking too good for is Noni Madueke, who is being linked with a move to our North London little bros, Arsenal. I don't know what these men thought it was. I don't know what they thought. They thought they're telling me 35, 40 million pounds for Noni. I said, who do you think we are? Like, when have you ever seen Chelsea sell players for cheap, unless they're absolutely at the end of their time? I think Kepa, what 1 year left? We got a cheeky 5 mil for him. We've been trying to shift Kepa for ages. What made you thought that we're gonna sell you Noni, who's 23 years of age, 5 years left on his deal? Maresca's not desperate for him to leave, not desperate for him. They've not fallen out. But quite simply, Noni's looking at the landscape thinking, rah, Esteval is there and it's looking peak. Gittins has just arrived. I'm seeing Palmer also play at right wing at times now, so it's looking a bit smoky. Pedro Neto's coming to the fore and looking really, really sharp. Things might look a little bit peak for me. And it's no surprise after Esteval scored that bad boy goal the absolute bad boy goal against us, that the click started happening. Right, I need to get on the phone to my agent. I need to get out of it, because this is looking fake. Because that goal went in and Noni started shaking, because that was a madness, and that's coming to Chelsea. That's coming for your shirt, Rupert. So the murmurs started happening. I was saying early in the summer, I think Noni might be out of it. I didn't know it was going to be to Arsenal. I was thinking maybe Newcastle, because Newcastle had a long-standing interest in Noni. Newcastle opted to go in the direction of what's his face?
Elanga. Yeah.
So £55 million. When I saw 55 million for Elanga, I'm like, come. You don't want to talk to me about 40 mil. What do you think this is? We're Chelsea Football Club, one of the hardest sellers in the world. In fact, we are the hardest selling team in the world. We do not take shitty fees. That's not what we're on. Mason Mount, 60 million, 1 year left on his deal. Kai Havertz, a player that you man knew. You man bought 65 M's. You paid us back our fee that we bought for him 3 years earlier. Stay calm. Respect yourself. Respect us. Don't talk to me about, Chelsea don't really have a leg to stand on. Chelsea don't really have room to negotiate. What are you talking about? We're Chelsea Football Club. You man thought that this pattern was gone when Roman did. You must be out of your mind. Because even Clearly, since Roman's coming, they've understood the pattern. Clearly, have understood the pattern. Get the assets, get them young, sell them hard, and sell them when they're surplus requirements. Ultimately, the club are always going to be interested. So Noni's always going to have suitors. Jackson's always going to have suitors. Players like the Sassy, Badiashile, Petrovic.
Yeah, I don't think these guys are on tanking value. I don't think they're a fan of that. I think that, funnily enough, the club that we're selling to, they kind of specialize in that stuff, where they tank the players' value so much to the point where when they really need to get a big fee, they can't do it. And so I feel like a lot of people, they try to act shocked. And I warn them every summer. Like, I warn them and I tell them, like, you might make 150 M's this summer. Like, it's not wow. Like, we always have players that are
easy work, bro. We've always got assets to sell, cuz. Like, we've always got it.
And the thing is that the P's don't bother me, because like I'm excited about us being in the green with the finances. I don't care about that. I just care about where the money's going back to. Like if we need somebody, like we need the money in it. So it's like,
bro, like man are talking about Chelsea desperately need this. They're talking about 60 million. Chelsea need to sell. What's 60 M's, bro? We're gonna do that anyway. Chelsea need to sell 60 million worth of play. We're gonna do that anyway.
And it's just a bit interesting though now as well, like, because like the kind of reaction to like our roster, like in terms of who we have available to choose from and who we bring back in and all this kind of stuff. It was looking a bit stupid to a lot of people not so long ago, but all of a sudden Chelsea like have the option of a couple of gems here and a couple of gems here. They can even dip into their Cobham bag and go and bring out a Josh Achimpong. Like,
bro,
Tyreek George is getting us back into games. It's like, I don't know, man. It looks kind of okay. Like in terms of like how we're trying to look forward and look to the future. Yes, does it require patience? It does. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm not gonna act like the last 2 seasons has been rosy.
Not been easy, bro.
But at the same time, I've also said that you kind of have to, you've made your bed, you have to kind of lay in it. So we've gone with these young products, like a lot of them, they're quite young. At some point, we were always going to reap the benefits of doing that, though. And so now that Esteval's coming in, and it don't even stop here, because, for example, Esteval's coming in this season, but next season, he's round the corner, to get what I'm saying. So it's like while everybody's stressing about what left winger and right winger to get,
brother,
I don't think Chelsea are really too stressed about it like that. Like, because they've done what already.
Is here, Jay? People are talking about, Chelsea need this, Chelsea need that, bro. We've already done the work. We don't need anything.
Like even with the Lavia thing, like Lavia's, yeah, but like we're excited to see Santos now. That work was done 2 seasons ago.
We've
Do you
done
see what
the
I'm
work.
saying? It's like,
We've
and
done the
everybody was
work.
like, "Why are you buying this guy? Why are you buying that guy?" And I said to a couple of people when they were saying it, I was like, "But you lot don't say this about Real Madrid, though.
Brother,
Endrick been nowhere to be seen.
listen, he's not played
Chouameni's
a
playing
minute in the
centre
Club
back.
World Cup. He's not played
Chouameni's playing
one
centre
minute.
back.
Yeah,
Where's
he's not played a
Camavinga?
minute. Bro, one sec. Let me see where Endrick is. Is he injured? I think Endrick might be injured, but I don't think he played a minute in the Club World Cup.
I'm just saying though, it's like how come when we're buying all these guys, it don't make sense. But when, say for example, the Real Madrid, like have you seen how many attackers at one point PSG had like mad attackers? You know, like what's the guys?
Colin Mawani. They had obviously Mbappe. They had Gonzalo Ramos. They had Dembele. They had Barcola. They had Doué. They had all these man at the same time.
Fair enough, man.
So
Fair
say
enough.
like, all right, man. Chelsea can't do it. It's fine.
But
It's
this
fine.
is what I'm saying. It's like it's silly when we do it, but when everybody else is doing it and they're ruining careers on their side, it don't matter. Like you're acting like Barcola's career ain't on the line right now. Like you're acting like it's not a good thing that he's just chilling on the bench like that. He's a young player, needs to play. Nobody ain't complaining about that. That Kang In Lee guy, he's got like crazy ability. I don't see how many times is he playing?
Yeah, to be fair, you know what?
Is he
Enrique is
playing?
the one manager that Enrique gets 10 minutes. These men get minutes.
That's fair, but what I'm saying is it's still risky, isn't it? You see what I'm saying? But nobody complains about it. To be fair, nobody complains about the PSG thing. And that's my point. It's just like you're complaining about this talent, you're saying that we're hoarding all this talent and whatever, but it's like everybody else is planning for the future, but we can't plan for the future.
For me, as long as you have these players and utilize them, no problems. No problems. Do you get? Like, as long as you're utilizing these players, there shouldn't be any complaints. Do you get it? If you've got all these players, you're not using them, then it's a problem. Like Lee Kang-in, for example, played 2,500 minutes for PSG. That's good minutes.
Yeah.
You get it? Good. That's good. That's a good utilization of a player's time. So, and that's Kang-in.
I think Barcola played a lot in the first half of the season, didn't he?
Exactly. That's not talking about Barcola. That's not talking about Doué. These men have all played significant minutes. That's not even talking about Kvara. So these men have all played significant minutes. It's just about how you utilize your squad. And personally, Esteval, if he's playing 1,500 to 2,000 minutes, that's good for Esteval as an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ekatike is theirs as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ekatike
Ekatike was at PSG. You talking about?
Yeah. Was he? So did he move? Did he get sold to Frankfurt?
So Ekatike got sold halfway through last season. I think.
Okay. Yeah.
So Ekatike moved to Frankfurt 18 months ago.
Yeah.
I'm almost certain. Yeah, he moved last year, January.
Initially alone, and then they bought him, innit?
Initially alone, yeah. Initially alone, then they bought him last summer. So yeah. So
it just sounds like everybody's doing similar stuff. Like,
no, that's what I'm saying. Like, people need to chill. I think people need to chill with Chelsea's hoarding. Listen, they don't like the strategy because we benefit from it. Peak, like we enjoy the fruits of this. Do you get what I'm trying to say? We enjoy it. We are actually enjoying this strategy, and the same strategy that people are saying is bullshit. The same strategy people saying they don't know what they're doing. Remember they were saying they don't know what they were doing. And now apparently Chelsea are cheats because we're hoarding talents, we're selling things, bro. But we didn't know what we were doing. That was the story. The story was we didn't know what we were doing. So what's going on?
No. Right now it just looks far from that.
It looks far from stupid. Right. That's all I'm gonna say. It looks far from stupid. And ultimately, people ask how are Chelsea to buy players? Because we sell players, B. We sell players and we sell them well. You get what I'm trying to say? So Madueke is an interesting one because it's going to be about £55 million plus for Noni, which is great money for us. We bought him for 27, selling him for 55, so doubled our money in the space of 2.5 years. That's not to say that we're not going to miss Noni. I think one thing that a lot of people are misconstruing is whilst I'm calm with him leaving, Noni has qualities that we don't necessarily have in abundance. And that ability to go 1v1. We've obviously got Gittins now. We'll see how that translates in the Premier League. But Noni was a high quality or high numbers dribbler in the Eredivisie. So he brought it over here and he was able to translate. And obviously the different level of league in Eredivisie versus the Prem. still quite different. But yeah, man, we're gonna miss some of the qualities, but there's also some deficiencies that we're gonna, not see anymore.
Yeah.
And for £55 million, a player that's not a certified starter for me, and especially not a starter that I think is of the level to start week in, week out for us, take him. Take him. It's calm. And again, there's no harm, no foul play, no harm, no foul. He's done a decent job for us. I think again, Noni's not a player that you can look at and say that I feel hard done by the lack of opportunities. No chance. Noni's played enough football for us over the last 2 years. So it's just one of them ones where it's like, all right, bro, it's time for you to go out, play, and develop elsewhere.
Yeah. I don't think the assessment will be an unfair assessment. Like that's for me, it's the same with what I said about Datsun. I just don't think that when they go to assess and look at the numbers and look at the performances and just even on the eye, just generally what Noni's done for the club, like I don't think they'll look at it and feel like they haven't got enough information to make that move. And so for me, like it's the same thing. Like, you move him on. This is again, it's part and parcel of the model. Like when you buy these young players, you don't know what they're going to turn into. Like we bought Noni in January under Potter, which is like two and a bit seasons ago now. We wanted to see where he could get to as a player. Some will argue that maybe he could have had a little bit more, maybe consistent starts, maybe earlier on, but that is also due to maybe his mentality, maybe things that he needed to do from the coach. I know Poch was like a big believer in Noni, but then felt like he needed to get to the next level before he could even get into the team.
Yeah.
And it's not just him that suffered from that. Mudrik's also suffered from that. When Mudrik was still able to play, he suffered from the same thing. So you buy these players, you spend the money on them, you try to get them for decent fees to begin with, and if they develop and they can play in the first team and they're good first team players, they'll stay. If they're not, then eventually the club just know what they've got to do. They know that they've got to sell the players, move on, and try again. And that's just that. And that's just football generally. Like people acting like what Chelsea are doing is different. It's not like you can all sell your players. Exactly. You don't have to wait.
No one's forced you to hold on to them.
No, everybody can sell their players. Like, I don't understand. You're mad at us because we've just got the balls to sell our players after 1 or 2 seasons.
Do you know what it is?
You don't have to see it for like 5 seasons.
Bro, you man are like persistent with like the same guys for like 5 years. You man are persistent with fucking Martinelli and Gabriel Jesus after 3-4 seasons. But no, we ain't got time for that. Like, it's cool. We know
they should have been moved on ages. They should have been moved on ages.
We know what they are. It's cool. We appreciate them for what they've done, but it's time to move on, boy. And people are talking about, the team that won the Champions League 4 years ago. There's only one player that's there, bro. Yeah, because we move people on. Like, what do you think this is? Like, what do you think this is? Like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, we move people on, and that's okay. It's football.
Isn't that what you're meant to do?
Brother, it's football. You think you want us to be rocking up to the 2025? What with a 34-year-old Jorginho? Like, still, like, come on. Like, we've refreshed our midfield pattern. We're certified. Like, let's have it serious. And we're operating like a club that has ambition, not just for now, but also the future. These men are 21 to 23.
Yeah.
We're good to go for the next 4 or 5 years at least. And again, there's going to be some people that fall by the wayside. That doesn't mean that we're doing it wrong. Because some people fall by the wayside, we sell, we replace. That's just how we're going to do it. And best of luck to Noni. Because I think that deal's probably going to go through now. The two clubs are talking. So obviously Arsenal put in the first bid of £50 million. Chelsea obviously want 50 guaranteed as well, or at least. Obviously guided by the Elanga deal, £55 million. So I think, we're going to probably get that transaction happening, if not before, after the Club World Cup. Is going to be resolved pretty soon, because players are going to have a break, then come back for pre-season. It's going to be a pretty short pre-season for Chelsea, but yeah, man, it's looking very, very interesting, man. Very, very interesting. But let's go back to the tournament.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about Cole Palmer, because I think Cole Palmer of this tournament has been, first game wasn't too good. But I think he's been pretty good this tournament. I think he's shown his quality, he's shown a lot of quality in various different positions and in various different ways.
Yeah.
So the game against Benfica, when he played on the left, I was like, oh, because I didn't like it at first. But I let it simmer, I let it cook. And I was like, oh shit, okay, this could be an option. But I'm gonna look cold here. What's going on? He created hella chances. Just generally great performance. And then in the second half, he just took it away from them, like just high quality throughout the game. And then against Palmeiras, again, the bad boy goal, just like shit. Okay, Palmer's looking on fire.
Yeah.
So I think Palmer's like grown into the tournament, and like you do in general, the first couple of games against the minnows, you're not really going to be at it fully. But as the tournament's gone on, his influence has started to grow. And again, against Fluminense, I thought it was really good. I thought it created a couple of good chances, created a big chance for Nkunku. Should have scored if Jackson wasn't in his feelings and tried to score a goal that he probably would have scored. But obviously, there's a lot of talk about Palmer's performances under Maresca in general, in comparison to what we saw under Pochettino. And Jay, obviously, you're one of them that believe that generally his performances haven't been of the same standard, of the same ilk, which I'd somewhat agree. Well, not even somewhat. Palmer's first 12 to 15 months were just incredible. Like Palmer, when he just incredible. I don't think, to be honest, under Poch in this first season, I think he may have had one or two quiet to not so good games. Because even in the games where he wasn't scoring, he was creating at a high clip. He was just incredible. Because I remember before December, actually, he wasn't really scoring. People were not really rating this thing. Not even Chelsea fans. Chelsea fans rated this thing always, but opposition fans weren't really rating him like that. And he'd be scoring. So it's very interesting to kind of see the dynamic shift now, because Palmer was clapping off goals early in this season, and then his goals dried up. I still feel performances weren't terrible. I still think he performed to a pretty decent level at certain points, but then there was a point where performances completely fell off a cliff. So talk to me, Jay, because I know Maresca, the way that he's utilising Palmer is like rubbing you off the wrong way slightly.
Yeah, my thing with Palmer is that I feel that he is a player where the game should go through him. I do feel like that, and I know a lot of fans have said, you know, it's good that we don't just rely on Palmer, but that's not necessarily what I'm saying. Like, just because you want your best player to kind of be regularly involved in the game doesn't mean that you're trying to just rely on him. His amount of quality, yeah, for me, is at such a high level. When I see him doing certain things on the pitch and they're resulting in quite basic patches of play, where it's just a little pass back to Caicedo, then it's like a little clip out to the winger, and then he's just kind of strolling through the game he's doing the actions well. Don't get me wrong, like his passing clean, his movement is good, like he's picking up the spaces well, like he's finding space well. But there's just a little bit more, because I just think the level that he is at when he is closer to goal, when he's regularly involved in all of those big moments in the game, I just think it takes him to another level. Whereas at the moment, I think he's doing a role where it keeps the team ticking over. And I get that, because he is so technically good and he is such a clever player that Maresca needs to find a way to not only obviously make sure Palmer's effective in patches, but also to kind of get the best out of everybody else around him. But I just feel like sometimes when you do that, it's not as good as just getting the best out of that player that you're kind of sacrificing. And the thing is, there is an argument. It's not a big talking point at the moment, because if we're being objective, it's not affecting Chelsea's winning. If that makes sense, it's not affecting Chelsea's winning. He's still
wins 15. I mean,
exactly. So it's not affecting Chelsea's winning. But what I will say is, we've got a final on Sunday. and keeping it ticking over ain't in my opinion. Just keeping it ticking over and all that good stuff, it ain't gonna be enough on Sunday.
Yeah.
And when we look at that game, you're talking about what you need in that game to really kind of shift it all the way over to our side to make us win that final. I don't think anybody argues with me and says that a 9 out of 10 Palmer and we have got a big chance in that game.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we need 9 out of 10s every week. I'm not saying that. But I think I don't take it away from Palmer that he's capable of doing stuff like what Salah did last season. For me, I don't think I think he's that player. I think he can do stuff like that. And I think people, because I think some fans have felt like because he set such a high standard in the first season, it's like, well, he shouldn't be expected to do that again. Nah, I think Palmer is special. I think he can do that. You see what I mean? So
I completely hear the argument. Right? But I feel like Palmer, this is what I call it. I call it the Palmer standard. Because the standards that you set in 2023, 2024 was so high to be performing at this level every single week without fail was nuts. His performance against Man City, cold. His performance against Manchester United, cold. Performances against Arsenal in the first half at Stamford Bridge, cold. Like the performances every single, and he's playing false nine that day. He played brilliantly every game. There was only a couple of games where you think they actually weren't particularly good, or it's not that it was lack of quality, but just not involved. Every game, bro. Every game. But we need to remember also, every game he performed, but the team as well weren't necessarily at their best. I'm not saying that's Palmer's fault. I'm saying it's Pochettino's fault.
I hate you, yeah.
You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Where I stand with this is, are we a better team with Palmer in the team? Yes. Absolutely. Even if he's performing at a 5 or 6 out of 10, which you don't want, but even at a 5 or 6 out of 10, Cole Palmer's still making us a better team. So until Cole Palmer impacts us to the point where he's a detriment to the team, I don't really mind as long as Chelsea are succeeding in their tasks and in their duties. Now, that's one point. That's like over the course of a season. Yeah. So that's that. But like you rightfully said, the best players and the big game players in moments like this, like in a final, they're the ones that are supposed to turn up and turn the game on its head, or the ones that could or should deliver the trophy to you. That's not always going to be the case because you're not always going to be that guy. There's very few players that were
even Hazard wasn't always that guy. Exactly.
There was very few players, even the best, that can go into a final and you know that they're delivering all the time. There's only one that I know for Chelsea that does that all the time. That was Didier. That was Didier, and his thing was crazy.
It's different.
So, but even like the best of players, like you can't guarantee in a final, and they can't guarantee in the crunch times that they're going to rise to the occasion. Cole Palmer's still only 23, so I think it's still lots of time to really be concerned about his performances. I think at this point in time, he's still super young. He literally just turned 23 in May, so it's just like, all right, let's be less concerned about his performances and until it impacts the team. Now, I completely agree from your perspective of him being in certain positions that is deeper, he's not really to be as devastating as he can from a goal scoring perspective. But from a creative perspective, his numbers have gone through the roof. Like his creative numbers, metrics have been incredible this season. And that's despite the fact we've not really had shooters. Now, everyone looks at assists, but we've seen the big chances that the brothers created. He's created the most big chances in the league this season. And he's got one of the few. He's not even got double figure assists. Why? Because we've not really had the goal scorer. We had a lot of wasteful guys in our team, and that's hopefully with the additional improvements that we've made, that's going to improve. So I don't really look at the assist numbers too tough.
No, same.
Even that period where he was not scoring, the amount of chances he was creating for guys was mad. Mad. I remember Noni had a chance against Manchester United. He should have scored. Just in the first half against United, he was just jugging. Palmer was jugging. So, like, I just feel like we need to kind of step back a little bit and recognize Cole Palmer, one, is young. Two, he's been playing for non-stop for 24 months.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind, this is his first period in his career where he's actually playing consistently. Before then, at City, he barely got a look in, barely played. So your body has to adjust to having to play this regularly. That's one. So I'm just like, okay, we need to like, he needs to have a proper rest, decompress him. We can kind of really analyze what he's really on over the course of the season, because this season really is unprecedented. We're still playing in July. You know what I'm saying? So if he's not going to have devastating Palmer like we've had and seen him before in the past, then it's all good. Because I saw in the Conference League final a player that even in a moment, because prior to the last 30 minutes, I thought Palmer was okay. Again, fine. More similar to what we've been talking about in terms of more same old, 6, 7 out of 10, it's all right. But for that 30 minutes, he took it to a 10. He literally took the game. He went, I'm the guy, and went up levels, literally 3-4 levels, to be the guy and win us the game by himself.
Yeah, I think what I'm struggling with, is more so the fact that I feel like I don't see enough patches where he's kind of allowed to do what he did in those last 30 minutes. And that is because it is important for the team. Because you can't just abandon what it is you worked on throughout the whole week just because you feel like you can go and do what it is you do. And obviously the gaffer before was okay with that. Because he used to even say it, like, we know Palmer can just do whatever he wants to do, and you know, but we can't. But he also said we can't rely on him. We need to learn to play without him. And so, I think it's a tough one, isn't it? It's you can't have it all, because at the end of the day, you want your team to be consistent over a long period of time. You want them to have a solid way of playing, a consistent way of playing, a consistent method in terms of winning games. And in reality, maybe that can't be a thing where it's give the ball to Eden Hazard, give the ball to Cole Palmer. Probably can't be that, because then when that fails, what's the plan?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So I do get it from that perspective. Maybe it's just me, just not. I feel like when I don't see Palmer enjoying himself, it annoys me a little bit. Because he's just a special player. He's just like a special talent. And I just think I don't want to limit him. Like I said this about Enzo in the first season. I don't know if you remember, but people were saying, no, he shouldn't be playing higher up. Like he's a DM, he's a 6. And I said, listen, look at this boy Enzo play football. I was like, don't limit him. Don't stop him from doing new things. Lo and behold, now he's a Lampard, bro. Like he's running in the box, he's scoring goals. And that's because he didn't allow the gaffer to limit what he could do. He said to the gaffer, I want to be a player that scores more goals. He's now scoring more goals. I just think with Palmer, just let's try not to limit him. Like, let's try not to do that, because it is good for the team that he, you know, he's the glue in a way, along with players like Caicedo and stuff like that. But he's also super special.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think the new age of football these days got a little bit of a habit of kind of robbing that from us sometimes. You understand? And I'm not saying that Maresca's doing that intentionally. I'm not saying that at all, because we've seen some magic moments already from Palmer under Maresca. But we need to be careful. Do you know what I mean? Like, we need to be careful. We like the Shirkies, we like the Palmers. We still love those ballers. Do you see what I'm saying? And when you're not seeing what kind of made you fall in love with those ballers in the first place, it's like you get a bit worried and you're like, I'm not sure if this is starting to disappear or not.
No, I hear it.
But like you said, patience as well. Like, let's see where it goes, because better players might bring out the better side of Palmer as well.
I was just going to say, like, we've seen one of the best players to ever grace a player Premier League go on a complete barren spell for a whole year. Like we've seen it. So like, if Palmer has a quiet-ish 6 months where he's creating at a high clip, not really scoring because he can't hit a barn door. And sometimes that just happens in football. Some
It's
players
true.
just can't just hit a barn door to save their life. There were some chances that he was missing, and I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on?
And then he scores one like he scored the other day,
Then
where
he
he just
scores
passes it into the net, and it's like,
exactly, bro. Like
it's like,
that
where is that been?
finish. That finish was exactly the same finish he scored against Bournemouth. You got just caress, not even
Pass it.
Bournemouth, West
Just
Ham.
pass it in there, yeah.
Pass it in. Just pass it in the. Do you know what I'm saying? So like sometimes it just happens in football, and I think you just have to have patience. And with Palmer, I'm calm. Like it's fine. Ultimately, he's set his own standards, so he's gonna have harsh critics.
Yeah.
But I think in this tournament, he's shown that he's levels, and it's going to be interesting to see in this final how he does up against
I'm
Ballon
excited.
d'Or contender.
Yeah.
Very, very excited. Very, very excited to see what won. But quickly, just in terms of this tournament, I think it's been a roaring success. Obviously, they've had a lot of like logistic issues. I think even the MetLife Stadium is not the greatest to get to. It's just terrible generally because there's no real shade in for fans or the players.
Yeah.
So it's just there's some of these things that I think the execution hasn't been quite spot on with, like, you know, selection, stadium, locations, flights, team flights from, you know, being in one location to the other. However, in terms of the actual content, it's been a great tournament, man. It's been a great tournament. It's shown so much. It's kind of opened a lot of the European biases' eyes to quality around the world, whether that is Al Hilal, the Saudi League, whether that is the Brazilian Serie A. Everyone's recognizing that actually these teams, even like teams like Botafogo, who are not one of the best teams in Brazil, they're giving teams a game. They beat PSG, they beat, you know, the European champions. So everyone is like recognizing that actually the value of this competition is to make football a global sport, not on an international stage, but also on a club stage. And I think the concept is great. Not having too many teams from one country to qualify is perfect, unless obviously you win the Champions League or you win the Copa de Libertadores. So I think it just makes sense. I love it. I love the tournament. 32 teams every 4 years, so it's not like running the players into the ground all the time. It's just, I think, a year before a World Cup year, it just kind of makes sense. It kind of gets you excited for the possibility of being called world champions, and it's genuine because when we won it in 2021, we won it against Palmeiras. Actually, it's not quite the same.
It's not at all.
The teams we played against or came up against weren't of the highest caliber. Obviously, Palmeiras were a great team, super defensive but super strong, and it wasn't a foregone conclusion. But it didn't feel like we were world champions. Like we won it, we got the gold crest on my chest. We needed that because I needed that. You know, I needed that, but it didn't feel like it was that. But coming up against PSG in this final, it feels like if we were to win it, that feels like a genuine emblem on your chest. Did that feel like that chain is real? Do you get it? So
and I think, you know, in another situation, the road to the final could have been like PSG's, and it's no different to like a Champions League run.
Brother.
You know what I mean? It's no different to a Champions League run. So I think the tournament's been amazing. I think it's been a nice little bit of education as well for football fans. I think a lot of fans are very quick to kind of, you know, talk down on certain teams and where they're from and stuff like that. And, you know, there's players that you don't know about, you come across and you're like, wow, like they're still playing at a high level. I remember watching like Lodi play for Al Hilal, and I was like, I'll take this left back tomorrow. Like he's still playing at a high level. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, so
I saw Cancelo jogging.
Yeah,
I saw Rodri jogging. I saw Savage jogging. I saw these men playing, bro. These men were playing.
That's what I'm saying.
What's his name? Ruben Neves balling out. Like, they were popping off City, bro. What are we talking about?
It's good building blocks as well, because Saudi, like, you know, we can't be greedy in this world. Do you get what I'm saying? Like Saudi want to build their team. They want to do their team. They want to eventually have maybe 7, 8, 9 teams that are exactly like Al Hilal. And I think there's no better way to kind of give them that kind of exposure than to like let the world see how good they can still play in a tournament like this when they're coming up against the European sides. They're popping Madrid off the park. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I think you can't really talk down on this Saudi thing anymore. Like now the Saudi move, you can't even. What can you even say about the Saudi move? You can't really. You're going to say, oh, but he's going Saudi. What are you talking about? We popped you off the park this the other day. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, I think the tournament's good for that specifically, and I think it's also good for that financial side of things for the other clubs like Auckland. You know, Auckland are in there. I don't know how much that
they
would
made about 30 M's, bro. That's like
exactly, and I can only think like how much they can do with that back home. That when they go, you know, what they can do to kind of improve the club, improve the facilities, all of these things, which is important for them as well. So
100%. I think this tournament's been a roaring success in that respect. And I also think the people that have been hating from outside the club, they're desperate to get in. They're desperate to get in.
So everyone's trying hard.
It remains to be seen if Arsenal, Liverpool, United get back in there in the next 4 years. It remains to be seen. I don't know if Arsenal, in fact, I know Arsenal won because it's Arsenal.
There's too much.
Liverpool possibly could sneak another Champions League in the next couple of years. So I just think that people need to stay calm. You can downplay it as much as you want, but you have to do what you need to do to qualify. Are you going to do so? Is your club going to do so?
I think this tournament as well is a good indicator to, you know, a lot of people have a lot of talk about how big they are in Europe and what they do.
Oh yeah.
If you're not rocking up to this tournament three times in a row, the tournament's every 4 years.
Yeah. If you're not there, you can't be talking
if in the
about
next couple of tournaments. I don't see you there, then
I don't want to hear it.
That in terms of stature, you can't be talking about yourself like you're some massive club. Do you know what I mean?
Don't want to hear it. Real Madrid were there, Dortmund were there, Bayern were there, Chelsea were there, City were there, PSG there, Inter there. Listen, I don't want to hear that. I want to hear no excuses.
Obviously, there's clubs that we know are big in Europe, even if they're not.
Barcelona, obviously, they haven't won the Champions League in a while, so you know they were in there. But do you see Barcelona winning the Champions League in the next couple of years? I do. So I think Barcelona will get in there at some point. There's going to be like 4 opportunities to qualify. So listen, 4 opportunities to qualify via the Champions League or via, I think, domestic leagues as well. I think you can get in via domestic league invitation as well. So we'll see.
I think if you're a successful club, generally, and you don't allow it to go on for too long to the point where you have significant, you should be.
So again, Chelsea on the cusp, the precipice of winning it all again. I want to kind of go through a tactic board because I want to just share my screen real quick. Because you know I'm interested in what potentially could be the lineups. Because if you look here, this is what I've kind of got at this moment in time. I don't know if you can see the screen. So obviously Caicedo may be a doubt because he rolled his ankle quite badly in the Fluminense game. This is what I'm going with. If Caicedo pulls through, I think he probably will pull through because he's a warrior and he's going to do everything to play in this final. This is what I think we might go with. I've got 2 kind of formations and 2 kind of structures. Obviously, Enzo Fernandez will be supporting up here, but also trying to keep that midfield 3 compact because it will be a midfield battle against PSG's midfield. PSG are very, very dynamic. Now, if you were to look at Reece James and compare it to Hakimi really does go up that high, you know. And so again, this is Nuno Mendes. So they really attack like this and keep a foundation of these 5 at the back so that when it comes to transitions, you don't break on them. You will often get support from Ruiz, then you might have Mendes that comes in and tucks in, and again, it keeps a 5. So generally, if you look at the way PSG play and the way that they press, they usually play with a 5 and attack with a 5. But Chelsea have to really try and match that, in my opinion. I
Yeah.
think Reece James, I don't know if we're going to have the capacity for him to really be marauding up the pitch
Yeah.
on a constant basis. But what I think Chelsea are going to do is, because you've got the speed of Pedro Neto, I think a lot of it will be a situation where it will be almost like you try and free Pedro Neto to get in behind their back line, because they
Yeah.
play quite a high line. And then you've got Enzo Fernandez and Palmer almost as in a 10, and you've got Joao Pedro up top. Now, I think that's what's going to happen. These guys are going to be the ones to try and thread these two in behind Marquinhos. And I think Pacho is back after his suspension. I don't know if he was banned for 2 games or 1, because his straight red card that he got. I don't actually know if he's available. But yeah, whether it's Marquinhos and Pacho for Marquinhos and I forgot his the other name. But they are still going to play a relatively high line, quite aggressive.
Yeah.
It'll be very interesting to see how Chelsea kind of set up. But I think this is what we're probably going to go with. Andre Santos starting in the final. Starting in the final. Mad.
He's
Absolutely.
familiar though. He's familiar with
Yeah.
PSG. So
Yeah.
not
So
problem.
I'm very interested to see how they do. But that's not just the one. I think there's also another. There's another strategy I thought that potentially Chelsea might also employ. Give me a minute. Now this. So again, because it's a midfield three, this is the thing. I think this is high risk. This would be a high risk strategy.
It's possible though.
It's possible. It's possible, but it's super high risk. But let me walk through it. Now, obviously, Chelsea play usually with an inverted fullback.
Midfielder, yeah. An inverted fullback, yeah.
So the 5 could potentially be Joao Pedro, the lap, who stretches the back line. Pedro Neto, again, because Mendes and Hakimi will leave space in behind. And Palmer would not necessarily be deep, but he will be the playmaker, as he usually is, to try and orchestrate attacks, right? You almost play like a back three with Kukurea,
Yeah.
Chaloba, and then similarly to what we've been seeing in the tournament, where Enzo Fernandez and Palmer almost become the 210. Now, I don't know if I want this, simply because
You're worried about the transition.
the threat in transition is too great. Now,
Yeah.
it's okay if you're stable, right? And then you almost play like a box 4, and you've got Reece James, Caicedo, Palmer, and Enzo, right? So you've got the defensive base of the 5, and you've still got the offensive potency of the 5. But it's just when things break down. Do we have the capacity to stop the transitions of Kvaratskhelia and Doué? Do we have that capacity? Do we trust Colwill to stay touch tight to Dembele without the ball?
Yeah.
Do we have the capacity? It's very difficult. It's super high risk. And I have a bit of a fear, because I feel like Reece James can handle pretty much any full winger. I think he can handle pretty much any winger, Kvaratskhelia included. But where you've got a player that has to invert and move in between those periods,
Positioning is a bit technical.
Exactly. So you can positionally, you can get caught here. Ruiz makes that lateral run consistently, right? It could be a problem. So do Chelsea stick or twist?
Yeah, I think it's to do with a lot of the bravery as well, in terms of what we feel like we can do to them. Because this is the thing about football. It's like, if you're going to be brave, you're going to have to accept that there's going to be a risk there.
Yeah.
But the reward is that obviously
it's
you punish them. You punish them when they leave their spaces, because their spaces are huge. And I don't think defensively, I don't think they're amazing. Yeah. I'll be honest. I think PSG are good defensively. I think they're good. I think Enrique's kind of he's got them to a point where, you know, they're concentrating at the back. I think Marquinhos has always had it in him to put in a top defensive performance.
Yeah.
Pacho also looks good as well.
Pacho is amazing. He is actually amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think like they've got it in them to produce like good defensive performances. but they do also have it in them to really concede some chances. And I just think where I watched the Villa game, and Villa were very, very brave in the way they played PSG. They just went for it and didn't really worry about what they were leaving behind. They just kind of believed in their own source and said, you know what, if we get Rodgers, Rashford, all these guys running at them, then we will get chances. Lo and behold, they nearly win the game. You know what I mean? And PSG were fortunate not to maybe concede a couple more. But this is where Chelsea just have to maybe be like Chelsea and Maresca are going to have to be a little bit more brave, because recently what he's done is he's almost attacked with a 6. So if you put Reece James right up on that right hand side, it's not been Reece, it's been Gusto.
It's been Gusto. So it's been like this, yeah. How I've seen it usually, it's been kind of like this.
And Neto's all the way on the left, and then he's had Neto
and he's had Neto
on the left.
Yeah.
And then he's had Reece up. Well, it's not Reece, it's been Gusto, and Gusto's been almost up there as well on the right hand side. And it's basically them.
And Caicedo's almost like in this area here to
just kind of on his own
transitions.
It's
been
exactly
very, very brave. Like this is how it's actually been. Like in terms of like the defensive phase, this is the area where it's almost like if anything comes through here, the first fades of the press, Caicedo's there to kind of sweep up. But very, very difficult when you've got highly technical players.
That's what I'm saying.
This isn't a run-of-the-mill team. This is the best team in the world.
And exactly.
Can you afford to be overly ambitious? I think it's one thing where you can be in containment mode and be like, actually, let's be somewhat reserved. And I think the formation that I showed before was one of those ones where it's reserved, right? But it's tough. It's tough because you have to decide whether you stick or twist.
Exactly.
It's very difficult.
I think it's gonna be difficult, man. I think they're a good team. They are a good team, bro. They're a good team.
Incredible team.
But what I will say, I think we've got 5 or 6 players that, on their day, can produce the levels that they need to beat that team. There's Palmer. There is Cucurella and James. And then there's the full midfield, which is Andre Santos, Caicedo, and Fernandes. Outside of that, you're then looking for somebody like a Levi to step up on the day. And you're looking for Joao Pedro to maybe continue with the vibe that he's introduced us to.
Bro.
If that happens, and to be honest, Neto has had a fantastic tournament. And so if there was anybody I would want in transition when Hakimi leaves that space, it probably is Neto.
It's Neto.
Because you're not catching me.
It's Neto. And the previous formation when Neto's on the right, I don't know if that works. Not because he's not capable of hurting Nuno Mendes. I just think Hakimi's far more susceptible defensively.
Absolutely.
So I just feel like Pedro Neto, you want him on his side.
Mendes has got a bit about him. But
then I ask you.
Hakimi's like Nori.
But here's the thing, Legit. I completely agree. But then I ask you, does this have enough attackers? I don't know if it does.
Oh, this is
what
I mean about the bravery. This is what I mean about the bravery.
This is the truth, because whilst this is stable, compact, do we pose enough of a threat? Do we believe, are we going to be the team that opts? Because I think Chelsea can either be the dominant force or concede and just allow all 3 of these guys, because they can all play. They can all slide a through ball in.
I'm really annoyed we don't have Lavia for this game. I'm really annoyed. I'm really annoyed.
We don't know though, because that can easily be Lavia.
If there was anybody that could make the most of these transitions with PSG, it would be Lavia. Because he has this knack of getting a ball turning and just knowing which pass to play.
Do you know what it is as well with Lavia? He's highly press resistant.
Exactly.
And in a moment and against a team that could press that high, that aggressive, you need it. You need it. You need a Lavia in there. And I don't know. He's been training. He has been training. But will we risk him? Will we play him? It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
Because this final's here now. I want the fight. I want the trophy now, innit? But it's like I don't want to risk the players.
You know what it is, yeah? Chelsea can do this. I don't want it to ever be in doubt. I think Chelsea can do it. I think Chalobah gets in over Tosin simply because I think of the speed.
And, yeah. I thought the same thing. Because Tosin's been good. Tosin's been good, by the way.
He's been really good. He's been exceptional for me. But I think
passing especially as well.
Chalobah, especially in the last game when, Fluminense did have moments to try and transition, Chalobah's covering was exceptional. Exceptional. So that speed, I'm not saying he's going to be able to keep up with an Dembele, but I think he'll be far more comfortable defending those spaces that eventually will appear, because PSG create transitions for fun. It's not difficult from them. They do it for fun. So, bro, I'm like caught in between the two styles, right? I'm caught between the two styles because in one hand, you can be brave, but that same bravery can lead you to getting blammed to dust. You get it? So like
and the thing is, we know what James can do on the day when he's on, and I think this is why he didn't play as well. By the way, I think the rest was thinking about the final. I think he really was. I think he was thinking about the final. I'm hoping that's the case for Lavia as well. That he's thought about the final and thought to himself, you know what, we can do it without those two. Let's keep them on ice. Let's bring them back in. Because when James really does lock it down, it kind of makes the team think in a completely different way.
Yeah.
I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Yeah. The route that they want to go is not there. Now all of a sudden they got to think of something different.
Yeah. It's going to be very interesting to see, because I think we both agree that these are the likely lineups, right?
Yeah.
Just in terms of so I'm going without Lavia. So if there's no Lavia, I think Andre Santos, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And if we're going super brave, I think this is how we're going to do it, because I think Maresca has said that he wanted Joao, there. Like this is like the 2-man step setup, right? So
I look at Madrid. I look at Madrid and I ask in those central areas who are making the runs.
Brother, Valverde,
because right now,
and Bellingham.
Yeah, there you go. And for me, I think with Joao Pedro, Palmer, and Delap on the pitch at the same time, and then with this new knack of getting into the midfield, into these positions that Enzo has at the moment, I think that can pose a big problem for PSG, because I don't think they've dealt with something like that for a long time.
So you're thinking more this.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, do you want the attackers on the pitch that are really going to ask the questions of those two centre-backs? Because I don't think the problem is getting out wide. I think we'll get opportunities out wide regardless because of the space that they leave behind there. But what I think really hurts PSG is when you try to test those centre-backs. Because every time I watch them, I'm not saying that they haven't been tested like that, but let's think about it. When they played Arsenal, who was the striker? Marino, right?
Marino. Yeah, Marino.
I mean, come on, man.
Physical.
You see what I mean? But it's not enough of a test. Whereas I'm looking at Joao Pedro and Delap and I'm saying a good 60, 70 minutes of that's a bit of a problem.
Stress.
As long as Delap's not stupid, he doesn't do anything silly.
Yeah.
Keeps himself composed.
Bro, this is tough. I can imagine that Maresca's probably thinking this through in his head non-stop.
Yeah.
This is tough.
Because we've played well in the tournament. Do you get what I'm saying? It's not like it's a fluke. We've played well in the tournament. Players have played well. Joao Pedro's come on and shown us some really good things. Reece James has had a good tournament. Gusto's even, like in patches, Gusto's had a good tournament. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
Ultimately, we're going to have to attack with 5, right? Yeah. That's the only way you're going to really be able to penetrate and hurt them. unless you allow PSG to come onto us and then we transition and it's 3 versus 2, but we're not forgetting Joao Neves is super good in covering spaces.
Yeah.
Vitinha is also super good at covering spaces with those little nick. You just can nick the ball past you, nick the ball off you.
Yeah.
So I think we need to. I actually think we need to play with bravery. I think we need. I'm not going to blame Maresca if he doesn't, but I feel like we need to kind of approach it brave. And this could almost be us in possession.
Yeah.
I think this may have to be it. Or even if it's not us all the way, that will be your midfield 3 to combat their midfield 3.
Yeah.
When I say maybe that's the halfway house. Maybe this is the halfway house.
Mm.
And you have the capacity for Enzo, if there's a possibility, you can have, okay, Enzo, you can support.
Yeah, task him with that role of getting forward and doing what he's been doing. Yeah.
And Reece in midfield. Oh, do I want that, bro?
I know, man. It's
in a final.
Because these midfielders are midfielders we're playing
against. These are not run-of-the-mills. These are real hoopers, bro.
And let's not forget as well, I think one of the most important factors as well is that if we're not switched on defensively, we will definitely lose. We will definitely lose. And that's not to say I'm not criticizing our defenders. I think they've been good, but these attackers are different gravy, bro. Like, Ousmane Dembele is on
any mistakes, you will get punished. So
yeah, it's gonna be tough.
It's gonna be hard, man. Cucurella on Doué, I could trust 1v1 Cucurella to lock him up. I could trust him. I can also trust Reece James 1v1 to lock up Kvara. It's just if he's asked to invert is where I'm concerned. If he's asked to invert and he's caught between here and here, Kvara's left alone.
Yeah.
Kaloba, we'll be making big doer for you, bro, because that is a big problem. So I almost feel like maybe it might be the day where we're not tasked with a complete inversion. You pick your moments. These two will be picking their moments to invert.
I think in certain instances you're going to have Hakimi and Mendes right up on James and
Hakimi and Mendes are going to be here.
Yeah.
Hakimi and Mendes at times are going to be right up here.
Yeah. So they're going to be right up on the fullbacks that we've got. So. And then obviously those centre mids really try to squeeze the pitch and really make it small. They try to pen you in. They try to start doing their little one-touch passing and that. And then in between all of that, you've got Dembele, Kvara, and Doué just moving around in the pockets. What I will say there is when they are doing that, we have to be super aggressive.
Bro,
we have to be super aggressive.
We need Caicedo, bro.
Yeah, we have to be super aggressive because that is where we can nick the ball. And like you said, Cucurella, James, Caicedo, they're all capable of nicking the ball and then pass, and they're composed enough as well to pass it, make the right passes.
You know what, bro? I think we need these two. I think we need both Andre. Lavia I think it's too big for him to come back after a little injury.
And then start running around like that. Yeah,
it's too much.
Yeah,
I think it's too much. I don't think also physically he's able to get about the pitch as well as my man here.
Yeah, Santos. Yeah,
and while Santos isn't as good at progressing play, isn't as good of a persistent player, he's good enough. He's good enough. And this guy can offer the physicality and energy to support Caicedo.
Yeah, and you've got to assess how much of the ball you're going to have as well. Like,
exactly.
There's a big possibility
that's what I'm saying, bro.
Game where we have a lot of the ball.
Because this structure here, when you're having the ball, no problem. This could run. Right? Because you don't have the extra body in midfield. You can run it because if you're dominating the ball, then yeah, you can just do this. Enzo could go up there, and you've got these two, and you're all right. And you've got your 5, you've got your. However,
yeah,
you're gonna dominate the game.
Yeah,
it's gonna be interesting because we can, depending on how Maresca actually mentally opts to do this game, I think our midfield can pop their midfield.
One thing I know is that there's not a lot of question marks in how we play now.
No.
Players are familiar.
Yeah.
I think the players that are not as familiar are playing in positions where it doesn't matter as much.
Yeah.
So, say for example, like a Joao Pedro, his role is quite clear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And same for the lap if he's playing. I also want to see what our attackers are capable of doing against their defense. Because they're not like an Arsenal level defense.
No.
I don't think they are. I don't think they're a Liverpool or Arsenal level defense. Not at all. Not for me.
I feel like these are the two structures that I envision Maresca using. Whether or not, I don't know which one he's going to go with. One is brave, one is less brave.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's ask the listeners what they think. It's very tough, and I don't envy Maresca's decision. I don't envy it at all because
it'll be tough.
It's going to be very, very tough how you approach it. You're going to get criticized either way. I'm not going to criticize Maresca for if he's going with these two approaches or one of these two approaches.
To be honest, I don't think I'm going to criticize him for anything in this game in regards to unless it's something mad crazy.
Unless it's something stupid. Like, dumb decision.
Of course. But like just generally, I think overall in this tournament, I think he's done what he needed to do. But, and I think he will give a good account of himself.
I agree.
I think the team will in the final. For those who questioned how important the Conference League final win was, you'll find out in this game because when you win a trophy, straight away you kind of want to win another one. They've got to a final, and now they've got an opportunity to win another one. And I think if you see the fight and the determination and that kind of stuff, that will be because they've already had the taste of winning.
They've tasted it.
That's exactly what I was saying before.
This is what we're talking about, bro. This is what we're talking about, that the importance of winning the Conference League, not the trophy itself, but what it does to the psyche of the players. You could just listen to the way that Caicedo speaks, Enzo Fernandez speaks, Colwill, Chaloba. All of these men are speaking with true hunger and desire. Reece James, even though he's won the Champions League, he knows what this means for the rest of the group. Yeah. He knows what this means for the group. It's going to be tough. But I'm excited. Just doing this lineup and doing this tactics board, it's just difficult. Period.
Yeah.
Period. And I just keep thinking to myself, okay, what else would I logically do if I was in Maresca's shoes? And there's not much else that I would do other than these two.
No, yeah. I think anything now after that, you just got to wait and see what's actually happening in the game. And assess it accordingly, and when it gets to half time, you make your change.
Maybe Joao Pedro up top here. Maybe Nkunku.
Listen. It's not outside of maybe. Listen, Nkunku's got a little bit of motivation, you know.
Yeah,
he's got a little bit of motivation in this game, you know. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
he's got a little bit of motivation in this game.
But then. The issue is, would Nkunku stress Hakimi enough?
No, he won't.
In that area where you trust Joao Pedro to stress Hakimi there, and you also trust the lap with his physicality to give these men a problem.
I think we need pace on the wings in this game.
I agree, and that's why
and work rate.
Yeah.
Even if Nkunku's working hard, Pedro Neto is one of the hardest working players that we have.
Yeah, man. That's why I feel like this might be it, bro.
Yeah.
I feel like this might be it. And you know why also? Because Palmer, whilst he works hard, is nowhere near like the work rate of Neto, right?
Yeah.
So I think also like here, even if Neto is pushed all the way back, and then this becomes a flat midfield 3 or 4-4-2. Yeah. And you've got Palmer, these guys. So these guys here, Neto, Enzo, Caicedo, tasked with finding Palmer, who then releases Joao Pedro. That's if it gets that peak, right? And we're like, I think this this personnel, this structure allows us to be a little bit. It allows us to cover multiple things in multiple ways.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think it does.
You don't have to be too hasty with this game.
Exactly. I think it allows us to just, it allows us to be a little bit compact. It also allows us to expand if necessary. It allows Reese to bomb on if necessary. It allows Kukurea, who will bomb on if necessary. I think this might be it. I think. But that remains to be seen. It remains to be seen. It's going to be a huge, huge game. World title on the line. Gold emblem on your chest on the line
for 4 years.
For 4 years. No one can chat to you because it's not as if you just beat any rando to wear that badge. You beat either Chelsea or PSG to wear it. So, you know, it'd be an incredible season for PSG if they did it. You know, I wouldn't be too sad if we didn't win it, because PSG have had an incredible season. But if you know the omens, you know I'm big on omens, you boy. Chelsea when they're underdogs in finals.
Yeah, it tends to go a certain way. Let's see, man.
Let's see about that, Jay. It's been an absolute pleasure, my bro. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully, Maresca goes with one of these two setups, and hopefully Chelsea, the boys, we bring the world title home in the inaugural 32-man Club World Cup. It will top up a very, very good season for the Blues and set us up for something real special for 25-26. Anyway, I've been Meeds. It's been Jay. We've been Chessy Hour. Let's catch you on the next one, hopefully, as world champions. Peace.
Cool. Peace.